Brigadier General Abolfazl Shekarchi, or whatever, said Iran's missile production never once stopped during war. Did you hear that? The regime just confessed the whole con on camera. While Democrats sold diplomacy, Tehran kept building drones, shipping missiles to the front, and reloading for more. And wait until you hear what Trump said comes next. Now, we're talking about more than 30 commercial vessels in the Strait of Hormuz that got attacked by Iran. CENTCOM said that. 30. And now only 3 commercial ships passed through on Tuesday. So the choke point moves global trade, and Iran's regime is strangling it while taking shots at our troops. 4 Americans are dead. First Lieutenant Tyler Feehan, Sergeant Michael Swinton, Sergeant Angel Rampersad, and Private Isabella Gonzalez. So when Barack Obama's crowd and today's Democrats preach more talks, I want you to remember the pallets of cash, the seized sailors, and this missile confession that's blowing their entire scam apart. And when Iranian Brigadier General boasts that missiles still rolled straight from factory floors to the front lines, you remember just how fragile the digital world really is. Everyone cheers AI and cloud finance, but what happens when your wealth is just code? What happens when it doesn't live on a server that you control, gets frozen by a keystroke, or erased by code? Noble Gold Investments gives you something real. Physical gold and silver, a coin you can hold, a bar you can stack, even a taxed advantage retirement account shipped right to your door. When regimes lie, assets outside the digital system matter most. Go to nextnewsgold.com, just mention my name, and claim a free 10-ounce U.S. independent silver bar when you open a new qualified account. Silver's rocking, so a 10-ounce bar would be pretty nice right now. In a dangerous world, America needs assets that the regime class cannot digitally choke. Now, Senator Bill Hagerty said that Trump's Iran decision came down to simple mathematics, not emotion. Now, that line, it hit me because it crushes the media fairy tale in just one swing. Trump saw cheap drones and cheap ballistic missiles flooding the zone before the weaklings did. Now we're going to pull up the receipts that they just can't spin away. And here's the moment this Brigadier General of the Iranian Armed Forces makes this admission. This is the regime the West keeps trying to negotiate with.
About the entire duration of the 40 days of war, and during this recent breach of trust after the agreement was signed, the production of our strategic missiles never once stopped. Even in the very heat of battle, drones and missiles were still being built, shipped straight from the factory to the front lines, as they say, and our critical stockpiles were being continuously replenished.
So Iran just said the quiet part out loud. They kept building missiles even after the deal. Now watch Marco Rubio lay down the terms. America will talk, but broken promises bring consequences.
I want to reiterate once again, the United States is always committed to diplomacy. We are open-minded and always willing to engage in negotiated settlements of differences, and that remains true in the case of Iran. Unfortunately, as of now, despite their direct outreaches, and Iran has been reaching out to the United States both directly and indirectly to engage in talks about settling the differences with regards to what's happening in that part of the world. Unfortunately, so far, even though we have reached agreements, they have not kept their commitments. And as the President stated earlier today, I guess, today Washington time, yesterday our time here now, the problem we're having right now is that they're not serious about talks. If they're serious, we're serious. If they're not, then we will do what is necessary to protect that, our interest and also the interest of our allies. At its core, it's very simple. Iran demands the right, which they do not have under any existing legal mechanism, to control the transit of traffic through the Straits of Hormuz. This is an international waterway. And of all the regions in the world, the one I don't need to teach about the importance of freedom of navigation in international waterways, it is this region. And if we create a precedent in the Middle East where a nation state can decide that they are going to control an international waterway, charge a toll, and if you don't pay them, blow up your ships, we have created a very dangerous precedent which will repeat itself in other parts of the world, including in this region. So what is at stake here is not simply the issue of what's happening in the Straits of Hormuz. It's a very fundamental principle about freedom of navigation. And if that is threatened, then I think the global economy is threatened, and the rules which have underpinned 150 years of international trade and commerce are also threatened. And that cannot be allowed to happen. But as I said, the United States remains open and willing to engage in positive, constructive negotiations and talks, so long as the commitments that are made are kept. And when those commitments are not kept, which is what's happened in this particular case, then there will be consequences. And that has to happen. If these consequences did not exist, then today we would be living in a world where the significant percentage of the energy supply of this region and 20% of the energy supply of the world is being held hostage by a nation state, by a rogue regime who intends to appropriate that and the right of tolling and controlling that shipping to itself, a right they do not have under any definition of international laws, particularly those that govern maritime transit.
Wow. Oh, he's running for president, guys. Make no mistake. Make no mistake. So Rubio says diplomacy is still on the table, but only if Iran stops playing games. Stephen Miller takes it further, arguing Trump is the first president willing to hit the regime head on.
Well, when it comes to the president's strategy against Iran, he's made it clear that he will consider and pursue any and every option necessary to achieve America's objective of ending the Iranian nuclear threat once and for all. Sean, you perhaps more than any other has covered how for 47 years this regime operated with bloody impunity. They murdered Americans. They tortured dissidents. They engaged in proxy terrorism across the region, across the globe. And of course, they're responsible for the roadside bombs that left so many of our bravest mortally wounded and terribly disfigured. Everyone wanted to push this problem aside. And of course, Obama, worst of all, funded, empowered, enabled, and led to the rise of the Iranian regime as a hegemony. President Trump is the only American president who's had the courage and the foresight and the willingness to take this threat head on and to say, we're not going to shove it aside. We're not going to let this threat go. We're not going to wake up in a morning where Iran has a nuclear weapon and the capacity to use it against American citizens. We're going to deal with this here. We're going to deal with it now. And we're going to do whatever it takes. And the results have been very clear. The regime has been eviscerated militarily, financially, politically, in every possible way. And that off-ramp's there anytime they want it to make a deal and to honor and abide by that deal. But if they think they can cross America and get away with it, they and everyone watching around the world has learned a very clear lesson about America and President Trump, Sean.
So Miller's point is simple. Strength got results where weak-kneed diplomacy failed. Next, Senator Haggerty breaks down the math behind Trump's decision for Iran's cheap missile swarm could outpace our defenses. Bill Mitchell posting that brilliance is the real reason Trump chose to attack Iran. It's pure mathematics and it's brilliant strategic thinking. Senator Haggerty explaining Trump's Iran decision, and it demolishes every Democrat criticism. Listen to this. This is really an interesting take.
We found, of course, the Israelis demonstrated this. The Iranians never stopped their program. They've always been in pursuit of a nuclear weapon, and all we wound up doing, again in 2020 hindsight, was giving the funds to instigate more terrorism and put them back on the path with a little bit of a timeline to have a nuclear weapon. You come forward and you think about what drove the decision for President Trump at the time that he made the decision. It was mathematics. The Iranians figured out if they could continue to build more cheap ballistics, more cheap drones, at some point they could overwhelm conventional capabilities to take them out. And you know what our capability is, exquisite. But when, a ballistic missile comes in, we've got, extraordinary technology that can take it out.
Yeah, that's the THAAD missiles?
In the Patriot systems. We've got several systems that will do it, but they're quite expensive, and the timeline to reproduce them is significantly longer than
So the conflict becomes asymmetrical because they can produce all these cheap.
And you look at the pace that they're producing these cheap, these cheap ballistics. And at some point, you realize if they overwhelm our ability to stop them, then they have all the time they ever needed to build the nuclear program. So as you look at that math, you realize, wait a minute, we're moving in a direction. You can see where it's going. you need to act. And that's exactly where we were. The precise timing, I think, had to do with 40 people being in the wrong room at the wrong time. Mm-hmm. But directionally speaking, you could see where this was going. It had to be dealt with.
Yeah, they all should have had breakfast that morning. But now at least they got their 40 virgins, right? So it wasn't a gut call, it was strategy. Brian Kilmeade is about to show what the strategy looks like when the target is Iran's deeply buried nuclear sites. Pickaxe Mountain. That's the deeply buried nuclear facility.
So first, let's take a look at the Pickaxe Mountain complex. The ventilation shaft might be a good way in. That's where we went in to the Natanz nuclear complex there. You open up the shaft and you follow it up with another rocket right on top of that. Believe it or not, they can do it with very little problems. But this is roughly, for us, it seems blurry and hard to distinguish. For the satellite experts, and what they are seeing is actually very deliberate and easy to detect. The Natanz nuclear site. This is the way it did look. After we hit it, this is how it was obliterated. What will we use? The GBU-57. Now, it can only go down 200 feet, but if you go down 200 feet and then follow right away with another one that go another 200 feet, maybe you can make some damage to this Pickaxe complex, which is very much a mystery. So these are some of the things that we have to do and we have to handle if we're going to handle Iran's nuclear program.
Wow. So it's not vague. It's about how you actually reach those hardened facilities. Next, Trey Yanks reports on another round of U.S. strikes and Trump's warning that more could be coming soon.
Another night of U.S. strikes hammered Iran, this time the target list expanding. Reports do indicate deeper strikes inside of Iranian territory, along with a variety of positions near to the Strait of Hormuz. Now, CENTCOM released a statement saying over the past 3 months, Iran has attacked more than 30 commercial vessels transiting the international waterway, vital for regional and global trade. The unwarranted attacks have endangered hundreds of innocent mariners and undermined freedom of navigation. The strait remains largely at a standstill, with just 3 commercial vessels passing through on Tuesday, according to Kepler shipping data. The other area of focus remains on Iran's nuclear program that President Trump says will be targeted in the days ahead.
We follow the material. That's where the action is. And we'll be hitting that area probably pretty soon. And there's not a thing they can do about it. Normally I wouldn't say that. If I thought they could do something about it, I would never say that. But we'll be hitting that area pretty soon, and very heavily.
While both the United States and Iran have left open the door for a diplomatic solution, no breakthrough has been reached yet, despite efforts from Qatar and Pakistan. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said earlier today that Iran is not serious about talks right now.
We remain open to diplomacy. We remain open to working it out in a negotiated way. But right now, they don't seem to be serious about that. And so we're going to continue to protect shipping. We think other countries should join us in that endeavor. We don't need them to, but they should, because they're more impacted by it than we are. And at the same time, we are going to, when the opportunity presents itself, degrade their ability to target global shipping.
The Iranians launched new counterattacks overnight, triggering sirens in Bahrain and Kuwait. The Jordanians also say they shot down a number of incoming Iranian missiles. This as the Department of War has released the name of the 4th U.S. soldier that was killed over the weekend during that ballistic missile attack against Jordan. It's Sergeant Angel Romperstad of Ozone Park, New York. Now, President Trump will attend the dignified transfer of all 4 service members killed at Dover Air Base later this morning.
So the strikes are hitting harder, going deeper, while the Strait of Hormuz stays under threat. And the next clip shows the danger up close with raw footage from a U.S. soldier under an Iranian missile barrage in Jordan.
的母亲儿啊，对。对吧？说的。
Off the walls if we can. Try to get a TBI.
So that's just a taste of what our soldiers are enduring over there. The ballistic missile assault. That's the reality. So the obvious question gets put to Rubio next. Are China or Russia helping Iran with targeting information?
For China and Russia giving targeting information to Iran, these last few attacks have been very devastating to U.S. troops.
Look, all I would say is that, anytime you're in a combat zone like that, there's danger associated with it. I mean, at the end, this actually proves the point that this is what Iran has been investing its money in for the last 20 years.
China and Russia giving targeting information?
I'm not going to discuss that other than to say that nothing that's happened, nothing that China has done has in any way changed the trajectory of of what you're seeing in terms of the conflicts we're having with Iran. And in fact, in some cases, they've actually been quite cooperative. With regards to what they potentially could have done but didn't do. I think the Chinese, and I'll let them tell you, but I don't think they're big fans of what Iran is trying to do in the Straits. In fact, they've said so publicly that they oppose tolling or any sort of restraint on freedom of navigation in the Straits. And, we hope they'll continue to say that, and it's important that other countries say that as well.
President Secretary was asked a similar question.
So Rubio won't give much away on outside help, but the threat to American troops is undeniable. Next, we move from the battlefield to Dover, where President Trump honors the 4 fallen patriots. Solemn scene there in Dover. Caskets being loaded onto the carrier vehicle. President Trump and family is nearby. A sad moment. Casket after casket being loaded. So after watching that solemn transfer, the cost of the fight is impossible to ignore. On Capitol Hill, Pete Hegseth unloads on Democrats for talking tough while refusing to fully fund the troops.
We have political leadership. You don't have a strategy. You don't have a long-term plan to actually win this war. Win the war. The men and women are going to be able to do it, but they need to have leadership. When will you show leadership? When will you show leadership?
Why don't you show some leadership and stand up to your fellow Democrats who won't fund the troops, who stand and play partisan politics while you don't give us the money? You want to stand up here and talk about the troops? You won't show any political courage to actually fund our department because you have Trump derangement syndrome and can't actually commit to anything meaningful. So I put this on you, Senator.
Secretary Hegseth, you have trillions, you have over $1 trillion, you're asking for $1.5 trillion. It's not a question of money, it's a question of leadership and understanding what it takes to actually win.
Political cowardice of Democrats who won't fund the troops.
Wow. The rage. Hegseth turning the tables. If Democrats care so much, fund the military and quit the grandstanding next. A reminder of how Obama handled Iran after the regime grabbed U.S. sailors, pallets of cash followed. Trump Daily Post, just a reminder of how Obama and Democrats dealt with Iran. On January 12, 2016, Iran's IRGC seized a U.S. Navy boat and crew. Obama's response to the attack was sending $400 million in pallets of cash 5 days later. We'll never forget those scenes during the Obama administration. And just days later, Barack Obama would negotiate with terrorists and send over the cash rather than missiles. Absolutely insane. But that's how Barack Obama handled the situation. Donald Trump handling it oh so very differently. Look at our sailors there being humiliated by Barack Obama, Commander-in-Chief, leaving them, hanging them out to dry. That's what you get from Barack Obama. Obama paid off terrorists. Trump punishes them, and even CNN has to admit what's next. Trump's support inside the Republican base is stronger than any president in the country.
Trump is still very popular with Republicans. Just take a look here. Okay, 21st century own party approval rating, about at this point in the second term. We got Trump, we got Obama, we got Bush. Look, they're all fairly popular, but the one who is the most popular, and we have seen this time in and time out, no matter when you look, is Donald John Trump. He's the only one who's over 80%. 83% of Republicans still approve of the job that Donald Trump is doing as president. He still has that magic touch. We'll see if it carries over to South Carolina, but we've seen it in primaries this year, Senate primaries, and that is because he is still a very popular man, historically popular when it comes to his own party liking and approving of the job that he's doing.
So the media can sneer all day, but the base isn't budging. Next, look at the red line Trump puts in writing. If Iran fires on ships in Hormuz, American bombs hit bridges and power plants. From this point forward, anytime the Islamic Republic of Iran shoots at a ship in the Strait of Hormuz, whether it be by missile, rocket, drone, or any other device, the United States will bomb and destroy one bridge or power plant, including those located next to or in the capital city of Tehran. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So leaves no room for confusion. Hit the global shipping, and Tehran pays a price. The next turns that warning into action, with Trump reportedly ordering CENTCOM to open the gates of hell. President Trump posting this to Truth Social. Trump orders CENTCOM to open the gates of hell after U.S. troops launches strikes on Iran. So from deterrence to retaliation, Trump's message is pure strength. And because the internet is the internet, we end with a viral buzz over a supposed backup Trump caught on camera. This is what people are talking about today. Probably because we are at war with Iran. People are losing it after a Trump body double was accidentally just spotted behind the president. They're calling him the backup Trump. Does this look like a clone to you? Play the clip. So that's what people are trying to say is President Trump's body double. I'm not so sure. Wow. That is quite a striking resemblance. But from what I understand, spoiler alert, I believe that is Melania Trump's father. So, fact check. Drones and missiles were still being built, shipped straight from the factory to the front lines. That came from Iran's own spokesman. And that one sentence torched every Democrat, every Obama-era appeaser, and every foreign policy fraud who begged America to trust Tehran. Trump didn't escalate a peace process. He busted a missile scam and answered it with strikes. And now the regime is getting the consequences that it earned. So, Abolfazl Shekarchi, Barack Obama's old Iran fantasy, and every Democrat still peddling diplomacy, they all need to answer for this. Iran admitted it kept building missiles through the fighting, even after the agreements. CENTCOM says the regime attacked more than 30 commercial vessels, and our troops paid the price while Washington cowards played make-believe. President Trump did the opposite. He honored First Lieutenant Tyler Fee and Sergeant Michael Swinton, Sergeant Angel Rampersad, and Private Isabella Gonzalez. Then he hammered the regime and put the nuclear program in the crosshairs, and that is what's called leadership. No more loopholes. No more bribery dressed up as peace. No more fake deals with terrorists chasing a bomb. If you're with me, send this to one person still repeating the Iran talking points and drop your verdict in the comments and make these apologists own every single word. And Iran's confession, exactly the kind of story the platforms love to silence. So text the words White House to 844-840-4963. Next News Network is credentialed inside the White House, and our nightly insider reports hit your phone straight from the building, ahead of the crowd, past the censors, and before YouTube decides what you get to see.